Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we have something really fascinating and, frankly, pretty disturbing. We're taking a look at a single primary source document. It details a very, very specific incident that happened on November 3rd, in a year that the document itself officially calls the Year of the Depend Adult Undergarment.
And our mission today is to act purely as, let's say, forensic historical analysts. We have to treat every detail in this record, no matter how strange it seems, as objective fact. We're just here to piece together the reality of this world, the chronology, the people in it.
And what a world it is. I mean, this account gives us such a precise snapshot. It's this intersection of elite athletics, some serious pharmaceutical manipulation, and it all happens inside this very rigid institution, the Enfield Tennis Academy, or ETA.
What's really fascinating to me is how much of the context, how much of the world building is embedded in just the environment itself. Before we even get to the main event, the crisis, we really have to get a feel for the institution that's shaping it.
Okay, so let's start there. The era itself. The Year of the Depend Adult Undergarment. That official title alone, I mean, that suggests a world where corporate or institutional branding has just taken over everything.
It's permeated every layer of life, right down to how they keep time. And this incident, it's isolated to one room, Subdormitory B, room 204. And the conditions described, they immediately signal this cold, almost oppressive rigor.
Right. The document says the boys have to suit up warmly for 0745R drills. And it mentions that all four windows in the room are, what was the phrase? Actively weeping condensation.
Exactly. It paints this picture of a place struggling against a harsh cold outside.
But it's not just the immediate climate. The infrastructure described suggests something on a massive scale.
You mean the sound of those distant, enormous 8HSCME displacement fans? The ones located way up north at the wall and border? What does that tell us about the world outside the academy? Well, it implies that this little microenvironment of ETA is completely dependent on some huge centralized system. It could be governmental, it could be corporate, but it's something that's managing the border or maybe the entire environment. These fans are just this looming fact of their world,
And then inside, on the domestic level, the technology is also really specific. Students have personal viewers showing recorded tennis matches. So the sport is an obsession. And they have access to these administrative systems through their desks' TPs.
Those TPs or terminal points, they're key. They're like the gateway to the institution. It's how they talk to the admin offices, get documents. It just solidifies this idea of a highly networked, very bureaucratic place.
Okay, let's zoom in on that room then, and the pharmaceutical element. Why would an elite academy like this have such easy access to both over-the-counter and prescription drugs?
The record is very clear on this. Things like expectorants, analgesics, that's all just routine. But the students, because they're under this constant physical pressure, have developed a kind of shadow economy. They're repurposing prescription drugs.
We have a perfect example of that. The main individual here, Jim Troll, she's hiding powerful, tenuous 75 milligram capsules, a stimulant, inside a Seldane bottle.
A deceptively labeled Seldane, yes. And that detail is a crucial piece of the puzzle. It shows that maintaining peak performance is the absolute priority. Even if it means breaking rules or, risking your health, it's about survival in that environment.
So with that stage set, let's turn our focus to the person at the center of this record, Jim Trolch.
Okay, so Trolch is 17. He's from Narberth, Pennsylvania. And the account gives us his precise institutional status. He's ranked number 8 at ETA in the boys' 18s, and he's number 2 singles on the B team.
So he's firmly planted in that hyper-competitive hierarchy. Good enough to be significant, but always, always fighting to move up.
Exactly. And just before this illness hits, the record shows him doing these routine, almost obsessive things. Straightening his jockstrap, calling the action of a recorded match into his fist. And then, just like that, the illness hits. And the suddenness is really jarring.
Yeah, the record calls it ultra-fast. It came out of nowhere. The first symptoms are pain in his throat, a weird overfull heat in various cranial meatus, and then a sneeze that yields a thick and doughy discharge.
And what's amazing is that even in this feverish state, he immediately starts to analyze it within the social rules of the ETA. He assigns blame instantly.
To a boy named Graham Rader. He suspects Rader of transferring virulent rhinovirus through a pretended-to-pretend sneeze.
Yes, at the milk dispenser the day before. Which tells you everything, doesn't it? In this world, getting sick isn't just bad luck. It's seen as a kind of competitive sabotage.
Yeah.
An attack.
But even as he's collapsing, Trolch stays incredibly resourceful. He makes a deal. He trades the rights to his breakfast with his roommate, Pemulus.
His breakfast. In exchange for a whole list of critical tasks. Pamela's has to refill the vaporizer, call the nurse, get a written excuse, and get more antihistamines. It's a remarkable negotiation.
It really is. It shows that even while he's critically ill, he's still managing his situation.
Yeah.
He's leveraging his resources, food for medical and, administrative support.
It's a transaction governed entirely by the demands of the institution.
Mm.
But as he gets worse, he's sweating, he can't make a fist, he's afraid of vomiting. The record notes this severe neurological shift.
Right. It says he feels unpleasantly drowsy, even though the Celdane should be non-drowsy. Which brings us to the real core of this entire documented event.
This is where the record pivots from the purely physical to a documented psychological reality. Section 4 is all about the fugue state Troeltsch experiences.
Let's be really specific about how the document describes this state. It says it's an unpleasant opioid feverish half-sleep state, more a fugue state than a sleep state, and it's not a feeling of floating.
No, the record is very careful about that. It says it's like being cast adrift on rough seas. His mind is in a state of crisis, triggered by the virus and the stress of his environment. And the horror, the real horror, it doesn't come from some external thing. It's an internal realization.
The intradream realization that the nightmare's very essence and center has been with you all along. So whatever this evil is, it wasn't new, it was just overlooked.
I think that's maybe the most significant line in the entire account.
Right.
It suggests that the environment itself is a source of profound psychological trauma. So when he wakes up panicking, the document says he perceives a distillation of total evil. And crucially, that this evil is for you alone.
And the record is explicit about this. His two roommates, shocked and Pimulus, they're asleep, they're unaffected. So whatever manifested in that room, it was specific to Troeltsch's compromised state.
And then we get the most striking piece of evidence in the whole file. The face on the floor. The document says that when he first scans the room with his flashlight, he misses it. But then he realizes it had been right there all along.
Can you describe the features, the factual details of this face from the record?
The documentation is incredibly clear. The pupils of the eyes were set sideways and tapered like a cat's. It had heavy eyebrows and it was fixed in a horrid, toothy smile.
That is just chilling. The idea that this evil is literally part of the architecture, it's baked into the floor of his room at the academy.
Exactly. And the psychological event ends with what the record calls a psychic clunk. He's back to full awareness, and it says he's quivering like a struck drum. He scans the actual floor with his actual flashlight, and it's blank. It's just faceless.
But the psychological damage is permanent. The record ends by saying he remains forever unsure you're not missing something that's right there. The doubt never leaves him.
So the Troeltsch case is this incredibly precise document. It shows how physical collapse in an environment of extreme institutional pressure can open a door to a profound, documented psychological terror.
Let's just briefly touch on the other individuals mentioned to round out the picture. His roommate, Pemulus. He's the one who provides the Tenuate capsules, right?
Yes, which confirms his role in the Academy's little shadow economy. He's also the one who apparently crazy glued a Turkish blanketish thing to the ceiling, which just adds to this picture of, a mix of strict regulation and total anarchy in the dorm.
And the other roommate, Ted Shocked, he's only mentioned in passing, but it's telling. He's getting his knees first of several whirlpools for the day.
Which just emphasizes this constant state of physical decay they're all in. Shocked is always injured. Troeltsch is fighting off viruses and taking stimulants. It's a constant battle.
So to sum up, we've established the facts of November 3rd, YOYO-TDAU, the strict hierarchy of ETA, the pharmaceutical manipulation, and this intensely vivid psychological event that Jim Troeltsch experienced.
The record really is a perfect snapshot. It documents the environmental pressures and the very unique psychological disruption that results. Self-medication and documented psychosis become two sides of the same competitive coin in this place.
It's an extraordinary historical account. So here is a final provocative thought for you to consider based on the evidence we've just reviewed. We see all this organized, observed technology inside the academy. The viewers, the TPs, the strict protocol.
Micro-level stuff, yeah.
Right, but what about the macro? What historical record exists that documents the actual purpose of those immense HSCME displacement fans that are looming over the entire academy from the wall and border?
This record details the consequence of that larger system, but not its intent. And that really is the great unanswered question of the year of the dependent adult undergarment.
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the historical record of the Troeltsch case.